Let's jump into a summary of The Body in the Library by Agatha Christie. It begins, as the best mysteries do, with a dead body in a perfectly respectable place. One morning, the Bantrys of Gossington Hall wake to find a body in their library. Colonel Arthur Bantry is outraged. His wife, Dolly Bantry, is bewildered but not hysterical. The girl is young, blonde, heavily made up, dressed in an evening gown with cheap jewelry. Neither of them knows her. No one in the house recognizes her. And yet there she is, sprawled on the rug in their dignified library, strangled in the night. Dolly Bantry, a proud woman but sensible, knows gossip will spread like fire unless the truth is discovered quickly. She calls her old friend Miss Marple, the elderly spinster of St. Mary Mead, known by some and underestimated by many for her quiet insight into human nature. Dolly trusts her instincts. If anyone can make sense of a murder, it's Jane. The police arrive, led by Superintendent Harper and Colonel Melchay, who initially assume the body is connected to Arthur Bantry. After all, the girl had to get into the house somehow, and she's exactly the kind of pretty young thing who might attract the wrong kind of attention. But Miss Marple sees through this simplistic thinking. She knows Arthur is pompous, but not unfaithful and certainly not a murderer. She also observes things others overlook: the girl's bitten nails, the contrast between her garish appearance and her neat hands, the way her body is posed to look casual but feels staged. The body is quickly identified as Ruby Keene, a teenage dancer and entertainer from a hotel in Danemouth, a seaside resort town about 25 miles away. She had been working at the Majestic Hotel, part of a cabaret act, and had recently begun charming wealthy guests. Her disappearance had been reported by her cousin and guardian, Josie Turner, a more experienced dancer who had been mentoring Ruby and, perhaps, competing with her. Ruby had last been seen leaving the hotel the previous night, supposedly summoned by a phone call. No one saw her return. Her room had not been slept in. And now, without explanation, she has turned up dead in the Bantry's library. But how and why? Miss Marple and Dolly Bantry travel to Danemouth, under the guise of holidaying ladies, and begin their quiet inquiries. There, they meet the other key players. One is Conway Jefferson, a wealthy, wheelchair-bound man staying at the hotel with his son-in-law Mark Gaskell and his daughter-in-law Adela Jefferson, both widowed. Jefferson had lost his own son and daughter in a plane crash years earlier and now travels with their surviving spouses. But recently, he had grown fond of Ruby Keene. Fond enough, in fact, to consider adopting her and making her his heir. This revelation changes everything. Ruby, who came from nothing, was about to receive a fortune. The implications are enormous. If she had become Jefferson's heir, both Mark and Adela, already dependent on him financially, would be disinherited. Suddenly, the motive for murder appears clear: jealousy, resentment, and inheritance. Josie, Ruby's cousin, had also stood to lose out if Ruby climbed higher socially. And Josie's attitude is revealing. She talks of Ruby with a blend of affection and competitiveness. Miss Marple, as always, listens more than she speaks, filing away every contradiction, every telling detail. One thing that strikes her is Josie's insistence that Ruby's shoes were missing from the hotel room, as if it mattered. And Miss Marple knows that nothing is said without reason. Then comes another twist. A second body is discovered, this time in a burnt-out car at a quarry. The victim is a local girl named Pamela Reeves, who had been missing for a day. A girl with no known enemies, no connection to the Bantrys or the hotel. But she had been hitchhiking to meet a friend and attend a Girls' Guides event. Her body is badly charred, but an autopsy reveals she died before the fire, also strangled. The coincidence is too much. Two young girls, killed in the same way, within days, in the same region. Miss Marple realizes they must be connected. She begins to ask a different question: not who wanted Ruby dead, but who wanted people to believe the body in the library was Ruby Keene. Her attention returns to the physical details: the bite marks, the clothing, the shoes. Something doesn't match. Ruby was glamorous and vivacious. Pamela was more modest, bookish, and young. What if the body in the library wasn't Ruby at all? It is a breathtaking deduction, Pamela Reeves, the second girl, was actually the first victim. And she had been dressed to look like Ruby, placed in the Bantry's library, to make everyone believe it was Ruby who had died. But if Pamela was the body in the library, then where is the real Ruby Keene? Miss Marple's theory becomes terrifyingly simple. The murderer killed Pamela, staged the body to look like Ruby, so that he could then kill Ruby later without suspicion. If Ruby was already believed dead, no one would be looking for her. And in that window of time, he could murder her quietly, with no alibi to worry about, and make her real death disappear. This is where Miss Marple shines, not through forensics or grand gestures, but through understanding people. She compares the case to stories from her village, people she's known all her life, men with hidden tempers, women who scheme, the way guilt reveals itself in throwaway lines. She realizes the killer is Mark Gaskell, the son-in-law of Conway Jefferson. Gaskell had charmed Ruby, promised her marriage, and used her ambition to manipulate her. He convinced her to fake her own death with the Pamela stand-in, promising a grand reveal and a new life. But once the deception was underway, he killed the real Ruby, the only witness, and burned her body in the car, claiming it was Pamela. But Miss Marple, attentive as ever, had noted that Pamela's shoes were missing, even though she had supposedly died wearing Ruby's clothes. It was an inconsistency that unraveled the entire plan. When confronted, Gaskell confesses. His motive was greed. If Ruby had inherited Jefferson's wealth, he planned to marry her and control the fortune. But she became inconvenient once suspicion mounted, and he needed to silence her. Pamela, meanwhile, was an unlucky stranger in the wrong place at the wrong time, chosen because of her size, her face, her tragic resemblance. With the case closed, the Bantrys are cleared of scandal, Conway Jefferson is shaken but relieved, and Miss Marple returns quietly to St. Mary Mead, as always, unnoticed and unthanked by many, but having seen what no one else could see. Don't forget to subscribe and watch another summary.